So I'm just kind of looking a little clarification here. As the judge had pointed out, you're obligated to do these recounts, but there's no deadline, even though you missed a deadline. So I guess one statute takes precedent over another.
Well, the Florida statute that addresses recounts for a hand recount requires that you move forward with a hand recount unless a candidate submits a formal statement in writing to indicate that they no longer wish to have a hand recount. We have been in touch with the Division of Elections. They haven't been in touch with us, and we don't have those statements, or we're not aware of those statements. They have been general statements issued to the voters by one candidate, and it's my understanding the other candidate is on vacation and not reachable. And so we've given our best effort not only to contact the Division of Elections, but the candidates themselves.
You said hand recount. Do you mean machine recount?
No, at 0.25, it's a hand recount.
Okay, but...
And so the Commission on Agriculture is at 0.25 or less. And so we would be required to run all of our ballots through our machines, locate the under and over votes. Right. In Palm Beach County, we have a lot more under over votes than the spread of the statewide results.
But what about the governor's race? Because that's one
that comes after.
So that would be a machine recount, or
that would be a machine recount.
Okay, so it would be a hand recount for the ag commissioner and a machine recount for the governor's race.
That's correct.
Okay.
So a little perspective here. I mean, lessons learned, or how do you look back on this whole experience of the last almost 3 weeks now?
Well, I'll say that, I mean, obviously we want new equipment, and we have a budget for new equipment. I have the statute that indicates that you are required to do a mark sense ballot. The machines for ES&S, which I probably could sole source because Dominion is the only other company that sells voting equipment that's certified in the state, they don't have a high-speed tabulator. Obviously, because of the population, we required that. And so we've worked with ES&S, and in doing due diligence, discovered that they do not print a mark sense ballot to comply with ADA. And so the number one priority of the Supervisors of Elections for this legislative session coming up in March is to add 4 words. Right now it says it must be a mark sense ballot in order to comply with ADA requirements by 2020. We want to add or a verifiable paper ballot. And we believe that that would bring all of the equipment that's currently being used throughout the state and the equipment that we intend to purchase into compliance with the law.
So 2019 gives you a breather. 2020, what assurances can you give? There was a lot of speculation here, especially among the national press, about what may happen here in 2020.
Well, I think that we're going to continue to see very close races. Obviously, we need the proper equipment, and I think that that would eliminate 99% of the issue. Our equipment is certified by the state, but it only allows us to outstack ballots for one race at a time. The state is fully aware of that, and in fact, the rule that governs recounts dictates exactly how we operate. We operated exactly in that manner.
Now, you know about the New York Times article over the weekend that was pointing at not mechanical error, but operator error. I mean, what do you say?
Something about a paper clip. I didn't see the article, but certainly we don't put paper clips on our ballots, and there were no paper clips going into the machine. The machine's overheated. I think you documented it well. You were here. And we had to open the machine. We had to let the operators take a break, and the machines needed to cool off. They lost some of our vote count during that time, and I think that what the company said is that the machines were not supposed to be used 24/7. I understand that. And I've been petitioning the state for many years now to try and change the deadline. The deadline is an unreasonable deadline, having equipment that's certified that doesn't operate in the manner that the newer equipment operates.
No matter what kind of equipment you get or how well you train your people, 2020 there's going to be even probably more outcries of voter fraud, allegations. You got it this time from the governor and the president.
I don't think we saw any evidence of voter fraud. Like I said initially, I think that they were trying to impede the democratic process because they don't like the demographics of our voters. That is not something that I have control over. I count votes with the voters that vote.
So you almost accept that as inevitable in 2020 then, no matter what you do?
That there would be allegations? Yeah. There's always allegations. And I think that that's the new normal. I think that if you watch the process closely, we're under careful eye of our constituents and the news media, and there is no evidence of voter fraud. We had somebody monitoring from the Division of Elections. They monitor every election, and there is no evidence of any type of voter fraud. People vote, we count every vote, and we produce results. That is our job. I cannot change the demographics. If the candidates didn't like the demographics, it's not my issue. But they're saying, oh, they added a whole bunch of votes after Election Day. Well, certainly we did. We received tens of thousands of vote-by-mail ballots at 7 p.m. on Election night. We are required to process those. That's the process. That's the law. We did so, and so did every other county in the state of Florida. That is just a process that we go through every election, and we'll continue to do so until the legislature changes the law.
One question I have is there were tens of thousands of over-under votes.
Yes.
Do you think that clearly people are either not understanding the ballot or just not maybe paying attention? Is there a way or an effort that you guys could do or something that could happen to make voters more aware of how to appropriately fill out the ballot?
Well, every voter who does not receive a vote-by-mail absentee ballot in the mail gets a sample ballot. There are instructions. They have opportunities to review all of the races and become educated voters, but the state of Florida law does not require a voter to vote in every single election. And so they vote their choices. I think they vote usually what they know about, and if they're uncertain, you can see that a lot of times they leave it blank. They leave it blank for a lot of the ballot questions as well, and for some of the other substantial elections, we did our very best to provide education to our voters, usually 4 or 5 days a week and every weekend, and so we go out and provide voter education, and unfortunately, we get what we get.
I know you know Brenda Snipes, and I'm sure she had a lot of reasons for her decision, but I'm sure one of them may have been, at least to us it seems, political pressure. I want to come back to this political pressure question again. You have to forgive me, I don't know how much longer you have in your term or if you intend to stay or not, but do you feel that same political pressure, and what is your reaction to her stepping down in Broward?
Well, I think that what you saw here is that we had the Republicans and the Democrats and the candidate representatives, and from what they told me, they saw our staff working as hard as they could, and they said we did a good job. They didn't see indication of voter fraud, and one of the best things that came out of this is that we saw Democrats and Republicans joining in an effort to want to allow us to count every vote. And so when it got a little bit too crowded, they both gave effort to thin out the crowd so that we could control the process and we wouldn't have a building that wasn't able to accommodate so many people. They never had a bad word to say. I spoke with the lawyers, I spoke with the voters and the representatives, and they were all very supportive of our process.
But do you look at this at some point where this job, it becomes so negative and so toxic for you down the road, especially in 2020, that you may not want to be in this position, or do you want to see it through?
Well, I'll tell you, this is a very important position. I knew coming in that it would be very stressful. This is where our democracy happens. This is where we count people's votes. This is where their voices are heard. So I will dedicate myself with every effort that I have, and my team has shown that they will too.
And Ms. Booker, I want to go
I'm
back
done.
to the...
Thank you.